So in this video, we're going to be having a look at an algebraic question. And just like in any other video, this video will also be broken down to 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. That way you can basically jump through the one that you desire. And in my goal of this video is for you to basically get into 1.3 because I found it fascinating when I saw this question. So to the new viewers, I would like to welcome you. To the ones who are returning, thank you for coming back. And please guys, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss when another video gets uploaded. So let's go ahead and jump right into the first one. Now the first question here, basically we're going to be solving for x. So before I can even go there, when you're solving for x, in most of the questions or in most of the questions that you're going to be getting there, your main goal is to basically go straight into the standard form. I'm going to write it here because I'm going to be trying by all means to make sure that I keep that, right? So that's the main thing of question 1. So let's go ahead and look at 1.1.1. Now 1.1.1, we can see that here we given x into 7 minus x, this is equal to 0. Now here already that you can already notice that this is in a factored form, so this basically means now this can be 0, or 7 minus x is equal to 0, and I can just take this minus x across. That way it will be 7 is equal to x, or I can rearrange it and write it like that. So this one was very easy. So let's go ahead and look into the second one. Now the second one here, you can notice that already it is in a standard form, and then we are given that we need to correct this into 2 decimal places. What this means is that we need to apply the quadratic formula. Now the nice thing about the quadratic formula, you don't have to memorize it. It is already given into your question paper that is at the back of the question paper. So the only thing that you need to find is the value for a, which is 3 in this case, and the value for b, which is minus 2, and then the value for c, which is minus 6. And then from here you're going to apply straight the formula, which is the quadratic formula here. So I'm just going to write it here, and then from there I am going to substitute. So when I substitute, this will be minus 2 plus minus, and I'll still have minus 2 squared minus 4, 3 minus 6. Then this will all be over 2 into 3. And then now here, using my calculator, now using the calculator, you can see that when we punch in everything there, we basically get the first value being 1,79. So I'm going to write this as 1,79. And then to write the second one, you just press here, change the plus sign into a minus sign, and then it will basically give this. So it's just going to be negative 1,12, and that is the answer that we get to the second one. Now let's go ahead and have a look at the third question. So 1.1.3, we are given 3 minus x into 7 plus x, it is less than 0. Now here we are dealing with a quadratic inequality. Now whenever it comes to quadratic inequality, I can see that because of this is already in factors, you're going to be tempted to basically go straight to your critical values. But here you shouldn't do that. Now the reason for that is because here, in order for you to jump from the factors to critical values, you need to make sure that your x values here, the signs, are both positive. But then in this case, you can see that this one is positive, which is fine, but this one it is negative. So what does this mean? So this means we need to multiply everything out first and then rearrange everything to make sure that x squared is positive. So now here we're going to multiply 3 times 7, which will be 21, 3 times x, which will be 3x, minus x times 7, minus 7x, and minus x times x will be minus x squared. So this will be less than 0. And from here, we're going to rearrange this into minus x squared. Now I'm going to add those two, 3x minus 7x to be minus 4x. And I'll put plus 21, and then this will be less than 0. And then from here, notice that the negative, the x squared is negative. So it means now I'm going to divide by negative. So when I do that, what happens is that the inequality sign changes the direction. And then this is when now I can basically factorize again, right? Putting the factors. Now I don't have to think about these factors. Why? Because they were already mentioned earlier there. But now the problem was that this x was negative, so we just needed to make it positive. Now here I'm gonna have plus here and minus there. Now from there I can then write my critical values. So critical values are more of like x solutions. So when you solve for x here, you know that x is going to be 3, and then when you do that there, you know your x is going to be minus 3. Now how do you write your answer? Now with inequalities, when it comes to quadratic inequalities, it is very easy. If your inequality sign it is pointing to the right, like this one, it means your answers are going to be 2. You're going to have 2 solutions, right? One will point in the left, and then another one will point at the right. But then now here, another case will be when you have this part. So I'm just going to highlight this and then write it here as less than 0, and then it basically means now your answer will be one solution, but then your x will be in between the inequalities. Now notice that both of them are pointing at the left, so you must write it that way. These two here, the first one, this one is going on the left and that one is going on the right. But the second option, both of them are pointing on the left. All right, then now what does this mean for this question that we're dealing with? So here we can see that it is pointing on the right, so it means our answer, we're going to have 2 solutions, one pointing on the left and one pointing on the right. Now what do we put in this case here? So here we're putting something here and putting something here. So what we basically do, let me just fix that, this is minus 7. What we basically do, we put in the smallest critical value on the one pointing on the left, which is in this case minus 7, and then the biggest critical value on the one pointing on the right, right? So if the question was like this, we would have put the minus 7 in this part, which is the smallest one, always on the left, and then the biggest one always on the right. So that is basically how we answer our 1.1.3. All right, so let's go ahead and look into 1.1.4. Now 1.1.4, we are given an exponential equation. So whenever you're given an exponential equation, what is the first step that you must always do? Now the first step is to always make sure that in most cases you change all the bases into the base that is the smallest, right? So which means now here I need to change this into that by prime factorizing, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prime factorize all the numbers that I see here. Now how do I prime factorize? So basically to prime factorize, it means you're going to write a number using its prime factors. So how do you do that using a calculator? What you're going to do is you're going to type in the number, for example 32, put the equal sign, and then after putting equal sign, it needs to show up here, and then you're going to press shift there and then press fact, and then this is the answer that you're going to be writing in place of 32. So now here, therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my cube root, but I'm just going to write 2 to the power 5, and then I'm going to do the same thing with 8. Now 8 equal sign needs to have 8 here, then shift fact, so it becomes 2 to the power 3. Now watch careful on this one because we're talking only about 8. So we know that 8 it is 2 to the power 3, but then there is still 3x there. Now what does this mean? So this means these numbers are going to multiply each other. And then here we're going to have 2 to the power of 6x. Now here we can write this as a rational number. So when you write it, we're going to take 2, and then the power of 2 is going to basically be a numerator of the fraction, and then 3, we're going to make it a denominator of that. And then here 3 times 3x, it will be 9x, so I'm going to write it as 2 to the power 9x. Now here I can skip a step and say, because of why I have bases that are the same, I can just add the powers now, or I can just keep it like that, right? So let me just keep it like that so that I don't leave anyone behind. So I'm just going to write it like that, and then here I'm going to have 2 to the power of 9x plus 6x, which will be 15x. Now the idea here, the main goal here was to get the same bases. As you can see, we have the same bases. So having the same bases, it means we can then drop the powers. So I'm dropping my power there, and then I'm looking for x, so which means I'm just going to divide by 15 both sides. When I do that, this cancels with that, and I'm left with x. Now how do you press this thing here on a calculator? Very simple. So there are two ways. One way that I always do is, if the first one at the top is a fraction, the second one is not a fraction, what I do is I write this one that is a fraction like that, and then when I write this divide, instead of putting divide again, I put it as this sign, and then I put in 15. So having this is the same as that. And then as you can see here, it gives me 1/9. Now another way of doing it like this is by basically the first part on the top, you put it inside the fraction like that. So 5/3, and then putting 15 here, we'll see that the answer is going to be the same thing, right? Okay, so let's move on now into 1.1.5. Now 1.1.5 here, we are given a square root equation. So whenever you're given a square root equation, you should always know that you're going to test your answer there, right? So what do I mean by that? It means whatever values that we get there, we must test them. Okay, so how do we apply a square root equation? So when we apply a square root equation, we first isolate the square root. So here, I'm going to take this minus 2 root x minus 1 across so that I can have it like that. And then I'm going to square both sides like that. Now when I simplify this, this gives me x squared minus 8x plus 16, right? But then plus 16, okay. But then the other side, 2 squared gives me 4. But then now when I square this part, this square root of x minus 1, the square root cancels with squares, and then it basically becomes x minus 1. Now notice that I put a bracket here. The reason why I'm putting the bracket is because this 2 was multiplying with the square root, so which means now whatever solution that I get there, I still need to multiply it again. So when I multiply it again, I get 4x minus 4. If you remember here, I still have my x squared minus 8x plus 16. And then I'm going to make a standard form. And then I'll say minus 4x plus 16. Take the minus 4 across, plus 4. This will be equal to 0. And then this gives me x squared minus 12x plus 20 equals to 0. So which means now I need to find the factors there. So it's going to be x and x, factors of 20, that will give me 12, it will be 10, and 2, then it will be minus minus, so x is 10 or x is 2, right? Then from there, remember like I said earlier, once you get the values, you need to test them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug in here 10 minus 4 minus 2 square root 10 minus 1. So I must get 0 for this to be true. As you can see here, I am getting 0. Then I'm going to do the same thing for this one. So I must also get 0 here. Now if I don't get 0, it means that one is not it. As you can see here, so this is not it, and then that is the 1. So therefore my answer of x is going to be equals to 10. Now let's go ahead and jump into the simultaneous equation, because we're done with 1.1 now. So in 1.2, we're going to be doing simultaneous equations. So simultaneous equation is all about creating equations, right, or solving two variables at the same time. So first of all, we're given x minus 2y is equals to 1. So this means this is first equation, of course, and then this one we're going to make it our second equation. Let me write it like that, equation 2. And then now the third equation, what we're going to do is we're going to take the easy one. So the easy one will be the one where you just solve the variable or make one variable a subject of the formula. In this case here, I have x, so which means I'm going to take this one and formulate the equation 3 there. So when I do that, I take this minus 2y across, and then I put the variable first up front, and then like that. So this gives me equation 3. And then from here, that's when I then sub this new one into the one that I didn't change, which is equation 2. Now what this means is that whenever I see x, I'm just going to substitute 2y plus 1. As you can see here, I'm substituting there. So then here I'm going to say plus 2y squared equals to 2. Now notice something here, because this will always come in most of the cases. See here we have minus 1, but then we also have y. So this thing is the same as if this y is in front here. So if there was a number, for example here, most of the people will think that here we'll need to multiply first here and then multiply there. But that's not how it works. Basically what you need to do is, if you have a space here and then there's y there, always make sure that you bring this y there, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to create a new line. I'm just going to remove this part and then put the minus y there, alright, just to show you that this is the correct order of how it's supposed to be. But then they did it that way so that it can confuse you, right, to distract you. So now here Simplifying this, we're going to get 4y squared plus 4y plus 1, but then now we're going to multiply that minus y with 2y, which will be minus 2y squared minus y plus 2y squared. So I'll take this 2 across and then make everything equals to 0. This way, this I cancel with that, and then I have 4y squared. Now 4y minus y should give me 3y, and then 1 minus 2 should give me minus 1 equals to 0. And then from there, I need to find the factors, so it will be 4y and y, so I have 1 and 1 equals to 0. So this with that, it will be plus, and that will be minus. And then looking at this, you can see that y here, it is 1 over 4, 1 over 4, or in this case, y is going to be minus 1. And then of course, once we have that, we'll then substitute the value for x. So if y is 1 over 4, then x is going to be 2 into 1 over 4 plus 1. And then for this case, x will be 2 into minus 1 plus 1. Now, pressing this on your calculator, let's go ahead and press it because I don't want to make any mistakes. 3 over 2, there we go. So we're getting 3 over 2, and then with this one we get minus 1, and that's how we basically get into our answers. So let's go ahead and look into 1.3. Now this question I found very interesting. As a result, is the part of the reason why I wanted to share this video. So let's go ahead and read this statement here. So the statement says it will cost 3,500 rand to hire a taxi for X number of friends to go on a trip. 4 friends do not have the money to pay, and then it says here the remaining friends agree to pay extra 43 rand 75 cents each to cover the cost of the taxi. Now the question here says calculate X, which is the number of friends who want to go on a trip. All right, so let's go ahead and dissect what is happening. So I'm going to make this more real life situation or more logical. All right, so now let's say we want to go into the trip, right? And then we know that in order for us to hire a taxi, we need to pay 3,500 rand for that. So now which means now before we even get into the hiring service, before we are aware that the X number of us, right, we need to make sure that we combine money equally, right, so that we can pay that 3,500 rand. Now the amount that each person needs to pay, in order for us to get that, we need to take that 3,500 rand, right, and divide it with the number of the friends that we are in total, right, or the total number of us as a group. So this is the amount that we're supposed to pay before, right? And then now cheeky we get into the service, taxi service, right? And then all of a sudden 4 friends, they're saying they're not going to pay, but we're already there. I mean, it happens all the time, and we're friends, so we understand. Maybe there's been something that came up, so that is why now we cannot. Well, it is why now 4 of these friends, they don't have the money to pay. So what does this mean? So this means that because we're already there, right, we still need to make sure that we pay that 3,500 rand. So now here we know that initially there was X of us, but then now 4 of them, they say that I do not have money, but we still need to make sure that we pay that 3,500 rand. So now removing the 4, how much is going to be the amount now? So the amount now will be still be shared equally. So we'll still take that 3,500 rand and divide it with the total number of friends now that are willing to pay or that are going to be paying, right? So which means now that will be X minus 4. Now from this, what we then notice as friends that are paying, right, what we then notice is that from initially until now, right, to the money that we're paying, the difference from the money that we're supposed to pay and the money that we're splitting now, it has grown by 43 rand 75 cent, right? So now the question now wants us to find out how many friends are we, right? So in order for us to do this, there's 2 ways. So one way that I feel like it is easy, it is to basically take the amount before. So I'll say amount before, right, and then add the extra 43 rand 75 cent, and then we know that will basically sum up into the amount after. So I'm going to write it as amount after, right? So amount before, initially we were planning to pay 3,500 rand over X, right? But then now we ended up adding 43 rand, 75 cent from what we were planning to pay, and then now that ended up being 3,500 rand over x minus 4. Now we need to solve for x here. So in order for us to solve for x, we need to find the LCM, of course. So the LCM will be x into x minus 4. So when I multiply that here, I can see that this x will cancel, but then now we're gonna have 3,500 into 3,500 into x minus 4, right? And then here, when I multiply this 43,75 with the LCM, it will be 43,75, right? And then I will have that x times x, which is x squared minus 4x. So I just simplified this part. And then here, we will have, when we take this LCM multiplying here, the x minus 4 will cancel with x minus 4. And then we will have x as a remainder there. So simplifying then this will give us 3,500 x minus 3,500 times 4, it is basically 14,000. And then here we will have 43.75 x squared minus 43.75 times 4. Let me check that in the calculator. So 43.75 times 4, so it gives us 175. So this will be minus 175x equals to 3,500x. And then of course we're going to make standard form. So a standard form will be 43.75x squared. And then I see here that I have this and that and that. So I'm just going to write them. 3,500x minus 3,500x minus 175x. And then I have that minus 1,400, or sorry, 14,000 equals to 0. Then this cancels with that. So this gives me 43.75 x squared minus 175x minus 14,000, equating it with 0. So now here I have, from here I see that the value for A, it is 43.75, and then the value for B, because we need to solve for x here, is minus 175. Then the value for C, it is minus 14,000. So let's go ahead and go into the quadratic formula. You can write the quadratic formula, but at this point, because of you have already written it on the first question, the 1.1.2, yeah, I don't think it is a mark at this point. They just want you to use it as a tool, so you don't have to show it, but it is best to show it so that you can show them that you know what you're talking about, right? So we're just going to be substituting these values like that, and then from there I will press the calculator and then give out the final answer. So this is all over oh, I forgot to put 4 here, minus 4. This is all over 43.75. all right, so let me go ahead and press this in the calculator. All right, so pressing this in the calculator, as you can see here, the value becomes 24. Now, because of this is already positive, that means automatically the second one shouldn't be positive, because that will be a problem, right? So as you can see here, it is minus 16. It needs to be negative. Why? Because we need to have one solution here, and in that solution it is x is equals to 20. All right, so now 1.3.2 says now calculate the amount that each friend pays for this trip in order to cover the cost, right? So we know that initially we had 16 friends paying, but then only sorry, we had 20 friends paying, which is what the answer we got here, but then now 16 now of those friends are paying, right? So which means now the amount will be basically still at 3,500 rand divided by 16 of the friends that are paying, right? So take that, I'll write it as 3,500 rand divided by 16 of us, so that will give you 218.75. So 218.75, and that's how we get into our answer. And that's it for this video. If you like the video, please make sure that you share with your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell me what you think about this video, and also don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you won't miss when another video gets uploaded. And I'll see you into the second.